Good evening, everyone. This is Mike O'Malley here with the Hurricane Outlook and discussion for June 2nd, 2022, occurred around 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We have a lot to talk about today, including newly designated potential tropical cyclone 1 expected to become tropical storm Alex that will be impacting Florida with major impacts over the next several days. So let's go and jump straight into everything. Taking a wide look across the tropical Atlantic this afternoon and evening, we notice that as the sun is setting, we have newly designated potential tropical cyclone 1, which is located over the tip of the Yucatan Peninsula and rapidly moving northeastward towards the Florida Peninsula. Now, this is a potential tropical cyclone. It has not yet been designated as such, but it is expected to get that designation very shortly. We can tell here on the impact graphic, this is expected to become a tropical storm within the next 24 hours and make its way to portions of central Florida within the next day or two. We could see impacts begin as early as tomorrow afternoon for portions of southern Florida and the Florida Keys, maybe even earlier than that. Now, again, this is the track forecast from the National Hurricane Center. We can see a track that will be moving into Florida and then rapidly moving out. This is not expected to stay around for a while, but this is expected to cause some pretty substantial impacts. We have tropical storm watches all the way from Havana, Cuba, all the way through the Florida Keys, all the way to near Tampa, and then a tropical storm watch up to Cocoa Beach and Melbourne. Florida. These will be replaced with tropical storm warnings over the next 24 hours or so, maybe even earlier than that, but these are expected to be upgraded to tropical storm warnings over the next couple of hours here. Now, in terms of the impacts we could be experiencing here, this is a graphic that I put together. So the storm surge and wind threat are relatively low. This is not expected to be a significant wind producing system. However, flooding is expected to be the extraordinarily high threat with this. Because this will be a very east-weighted system, most of the showers and thunderstorms and everything to that degree will be on the eastern side of the system. So it's not going to be your typical type tropical system where you would expect impacts on the backside. In fact, the backside of this may be relatively dry. But the flooding threat is extremely high, especially for portions of South Florida. And then the tornado threat, we may even have to upgrade this to a moderate threat here, but there is at least some potential of tornadoes over the next several days or over the next really 48 hours as this approaches and moves through portions of Central and South Florida. So if we take a look here at the visible satellite imagery, we can see here that over the last several hours, we've had numerous attempts at convective development and a big mass here of convection, especially off towards the east. Now, the reason for this is because there's a lot of shear blowing across this system here. Now, the area of low pressure is somewhere within here. It's very elongated and hard to tell. If you look at the latest recon plane that was in there from earlier this afternoon, we found what appears to be an area of low pressure that was still over the tip of the Yucatan Peninsula. You can see that there is a little bit of wind shift here, and this correlates to a bit of change in direction. And so it is reasonable to infer that there could be an area of low pressure that is somewhere within here. It's very broad, very elongated, and it's not very well developed at this point. And we can kind of see, though, that over the last several hours, we've begun to really see more of a circulation resemblance on the satellite here. But we're also watching this area right here because this is a mid-level circulation, and with enough convection that is developing over top of this, this might become the new surface low and track off towards the north and east. And this would have some track implications over the next day or two. So if we take a look here at the GFS forecast, this is the 850 millibar vorticity, so the spin in the atmosphere at 5,000 feet off the ground. We notice that, again, with these lighter, more broad, not as well consolidated areas of low pressure, we can see how broad this really is. It's not very well consolidated, and that's going to be one of the hindering factors as this begins to move towards the north and east. how quickly this can consolidate is going to matter a lot. On the GFS forecast, this begins to consolidate as multiple different areas of vorticity or lower pressure begins to try to compete for one another. And when you have a situation like that, the impacts are going to be very broad, and we're not going to be talking about just a very localized area. We're talking about a very wide swath of potential impacts here. So to really break this down, let's go to the HWARF forecast. This is the 18Z run, and this does have some of the aircraft data that's been assimilated into it. What little there was, it has been assimilated into this forecast. Now, what we can see here, this is valid as of 8 p.m. this evening. We notice that we have a batch of showers and thunderstorms well off towards the east of where a supposed low-level circulation is. And this is going to be the theme over the next several hours and days, really. We notice that on the GFS or on the HWARF forecast, it begins to try to form another surface low where we would kind of expect one. We know there's going to be center reformations with this because that's how sheared, sloppy systems work. They tend to reform their low-level vortex underneath a mid-level circulation, and it just keeps that process going. This would be the anticipated area where we would expect that reformation to occur, very close here to Cuba. And that's why there is a tropical storm watch that has been issued for portions of Cuba because of the impacts that the faraway convection could have to this area. So we notice here on the HWARF forecast that it continues to show that there is some center reformations and additional downstream center reformations are possible even as it approaches Florida. Now we notice this is by 11 p.m. here on Friday going into Saturday here. So really by tomorrow, we're going to start to feel those impacts tomorrow night and then continuing in through the day on Saturday. And the HWARF forecast here is pretty nasty, pretty gnarly bands here of thunderstorms that are training over the same areas with a surface low that is still well offshore. This continues to pump moisture, just deep tropical moisture in, and this could lead to a lot of significant rainfall. In fact, if we look here at what the GFS is predicting here, the GFS is predicting a large swath of around about 8 to 10 inches of rainfall, especially across portions of South Florida. Now, the HWARF forecast here is a little bit further north on this run and is going to promote more of a heavy rainfall threat for portions of the southern and central Florida peninsula here. And even the Florida Keys, especially towards Key West, could get on some of this nasty action. And that continues all the way through. This is 11 a.m. on Saturday. Nasty squalls, nasty conditions expected across most of central Florida. So for those reasons, again, we have the flooding threat at a high risk. This is as high as it can go here on the scale. And you could see 8, 10 localized area of 15 inches of rain, and that could cause some problems. Now, the HMON forecast, this is another hurricane-specific model, is not all that enthused, but you can see very heavy rainfall, still the general idea of very heavy rainfall stretching through the Florida Peninsula. Now, this is a little bit later here. This brings the center ashore basically by right around about 2 to 4 p.m. on Saturday. So maybe a little bit of a delay there, and then carries it up through Cocoa Beach and Melbourne. So there could still be some very significant impacts even as far north as there. And there is a tropical storm watch that has been hoisted for portions of Osceola and Brevard County for those reasons. And we could see those extended into portions of Orange County, including the metro Orlando area over the next few hours. Now, this is the official forecast from all the model guidance here. We notice that a track in the central and southern portions of the peninsula is most favored. Would not be surprised to see this shift a little bit further north, though, or south if we get another center reformation that is over here. That would take the track more so over portions of southern Florida. All right. So that being said, hope you have a great rest of your afternoon or good rest of your evening, really. I am Michael O'Malley, and I'll talk to you guys again some more tomorrow.